For today's review, I'm going to be talking about Philomena. This is a 2013 film nominated for Best Picture of the year. At the time, I kind of felt it to be, one of those movies with, of course, how they have more nominees open now. I felt it to be, one of those movies that didn't quite fit in, kind of like Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Blind Side, that wouldn't have otherwise been nominated if it weren't for there being more spots. I don't know, there just wasn't that much buzz about it, but in having seen it and now watching it again for a second time recently, I gotta say, this is a great movie, actually. What I really like about it is that, so it shows the story, essentially what the premise is. We have Philomena. She's played by Judi Dench, of course, wonderful in her role. When she was young, she had a tawdry affair and became pregnant. She's sent off to the nuns. Had her baby. Her baby was given away. And she's held the secret for 50 years until finally she opens up about it. And a disgraced journalist, played by Steve Coogan, he decides, kind of just because he's not really doing much, wants to get back on the horse of writing, basically. He decides, almost on a whim, I'll do this human interest story, basically. And it becomes this revelation of her original story, what happened all those 50 years ago, and it becomes a search to find her son, who was given away 50 years ago. And so what I like about it, it gives away what you need to know, the basic premise of her story, pretty much right away in flashbacks, showing her life in the convent, I guess, in the church, and, at that time, how strict and horrible and shame-inducing these nuns were. You're a horrible sinner, and forcing her to do the laundry. And she says, I've worked 7 days a week doing the laundry. It was terrible, and we only got to see our kids once a week. And finally, the kid is adopted and given away, and how terrible it was, and how it's been with her for all this time, and finally, on his 50th birthday, she decides to reveal it. So they get that out of the way real quick, because that story, I mean, it's good, it's compelling in its way, but it kind of opens up to what's to come, and the real interest of this story isn't so much, this poor girl who, lost her kid. It's more about this relationship between Steve Coogan and Judi Dench, which is the absolute best thing about the movie, and kind of what it all amounts to. It is sort of this almost expose of the Catholic Church. We're seeing a lot of those, aren't we? And like revealing piece by piece, so almost like a mystery. It's like a road movie. It's almost like a mystery, and finding out about her son and what his life has become, and how the church was kind of covering up things, and sort of like a conspiracy about how they'd give away these kids to Americans for money. So they're selling these fucking kids, which is a horrible thing. But it's all about in finding these things out, in this kind of journey with the two, it's all about their attitudes. And what I find to be the most compelling aspect with their relationship is how, even though, yes, in a broad sense, this is a story of, trying to find her lost son, it is a story about a very religious person, devoted Catholic, and an atheist, and, them kind of coming together in their attitudes and their viewpoints, and how they kind of react to each other, which I find very interesting, because you see a lot of that, debates against, very faithful people against not so faithful people, and it's always, kind of a matter of, arguments and things like that, and they get into these little arguments. It's like, if God were so, all-knowing, all-divine, why would he, give us uncontrollable sexual urges and then tell us it's bad and things like that? So there's a lot of that back and forth, but it's not too heavy-handed with that, which I like, because it's all character-based ultimately. But what it kind of amounts to is that, Philomena, she's such a positive person, And even though, yeah, you could say she's kind of a simple person, he even makes the Steve Coogan's character, he makes a comment, oh, I finally discovered what a lifetime's worth of Reader's Digest in the Daily Mail amounts to. You know, she told 4 different people today that they're one in a million, so it's kind of funny. Yes, she is simple, and she like gets so excited about these romantic novels and explains all the novels to them. And she's, I don't know, she's adorable and positive in her role. Judi Dench is great, and seeing that relationship, seeing that back and forth is tremendous, and you know, it amounts to a lot of anger that Steve Coogan feels against the church, what they've done to her. He's like feeling this second hand anger, but in seeing like her positive attitude and actually being a good example of, you know, how an overly religious person can actually be something good instead of, you know, what we see like, you know, protesters, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Showing that someone like that can be really good. And showing how someone who is faithless can be so determined and so helpful and ultimately really be safe, have her feeling safe with him in the sense that he does kind of decide at the end, even though obviously it turns out differently, like, you know what, this is between you and your son. I'm not going to publish the story. So this is a great relationship between the two. I really think that. And the performances are great. Steve Coogan is great. Judi Dench is superb. I never saw Blue Jasmine. That was the one with Cate Blanchett. She won. But I kind of think Judi Dench should have won for this role. She's great. This is probably her best role, in my opinion. So I really loved her in this, and I just think, you know, it's they reveal the piece of information very, you know, appropriately, and there's like coincidences. Like I don't want to give it away. I really don't, just in case you haven't seen it. But there are, you know, certain coincidences that happen and sort of twists of fate and things like that, that are really moving and really good. But the movie has a very sharp pace to it, and a very good sense of humor about its characters. Like, probably one of my favorite scenes, like really literally the opening scene of the movie. Well, like my favorite line in the movie, I guess. It's like after he's sacked from work, he's at the doctor's office. He's like, oh, we see the doctor. And he's like, okay, your blood pressure's blah blah blah, your weight's blah 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 blah, your stool sample is outstanding. And Steve Coogan's like, oh, it's good. And the doctor's like, no, it's outstanding. You haven't provided it yet. So, what'd you think? It didn't stink. So that's fine. One of my favorite lines in the movie. But yeah, I think this is a great movie. I initially didn't give it a chance because I just didn't think it would be something that I would like, but it turned out I loved it. I think it's a great movie. So if you haven't, check it out. It's well worth doing so, if not for the great performance alone, but a great story and a great kind of clash of ideals where, yes, two people with two different different mindsets, very religious, non-religious, they can coexist. Isn't that something? Isn't that what we all really want at the end of the day? So that's my review of Philomena, a great movie. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Derek237.com. 31 Days of Oscar, plenty more to come, so stay tuned for that, and until next time, I'll see you later.